How is it possible that we hear nothing about Kyrie Irving being an asshole? Nothing. He's not distributing copies of Mein Kampf courtside anymore. Wearing like a Das Boot shirt. Fucking asshole of a human being. But, Jesus.
Someone got to him, like either age. I'm sure he has kids by now. Being an adult, whatever has got something happened because it's night and day. Like it's so funny. People are trying to compliment him, and I wanted to criticize him, and then I thought, I'm like, wait, that's true. I haven't heard anything. I didn't know he was still playing, so he must be quiet.
He's as quiet and respectful as Mike Conley would be.
Yes.
Right? A guy that never has been immersed in any controversy in his lifetime, going all the way back to his days at Ohio State.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Luka Doncic took care of that. He was like Luca Brasi. Won't be seeing him around here no more. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Degenerate Friday edition of the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, we got Mike Lubie Lubitz, a very happy Mike Lubie Lubitz, because the thing that Lubie likes to do best is now it's open season. We haven't even gotten to the point. June 6th, they'll begin the NBA Finals, but already Lubie's favorite topic, off-season NBA speculation, trade rumors, free agent possibilities, and what is your team going to look like next year, when we didn't really give that much of a shit about what the Heat looked like this year. I would say it was kind of the expectations. It was Charles Dickens time, wasn't it? Not exactly great for the Miami Heat this year, even though they went to the NBA Finals a year ago. Could they have gotten there again? Possibly, but it didn't really look to me like they were a championship caliber team. Unlike our Florida Panthers, who are looking very much like they're going to be in a Stanley Cup Finals again, where they now statistically have an 80% chance of getting to the Stanley Cup Finals based on past performances in NHL playoff series, where the team that wins the pivotal Game 5 when a series has been tied at 2-2, which was the case with the Rangers and the Panthers going into the Garden last night. The team that wins that game, that fifth game, that pivotal fifth game, ends up winning the series 80% of the time. It's over 80%. I think it's slightly over, which is 4 out of 5. So you're in pretty good shape there, Lubie. Hoping to go ahead and survive and then end up facing either Edmonton or Dallas, also tied at 2-2 with their pivotal Game 5 on tap and slated for tonight in Dallas. But before we get to the sporting world, which has been magnificent, it's just been fantastic stuff. And we couldn't be any more dead wrong. I think I picked the wrong side in all 5 games of the Dallas-Minnesota series. I thought Minnesota would win Game 1. I thought they would win Game 2. I thought Minnesota would win Game 3. I thought Dallas would close them out in 4 after all that.
Yes.
And I thought Minnesota would win last night. But we couldn't have been any more wrong. I was tempted to send it in. I don't know what the odds were. I would imagine the favorite in the outcome of the Trump hush money trial would have been hung jury, no? Because it seemed like, okay, the vagaries of the case. I would say this, and rarely would I come to Trump's defense, but I would say this. The case was kind of lame overall. I mean, did we know that there was a strong possibility that there was almost 100% chance, if not even higher, if it's possible, that Trump engaged in this sort of thing in a direct? He had just come out with the statement, which he found non-offensive. He had just come out with the thing about grab him by the pussy. And there was great concern at, Trump's, what would you say, misogynistic approach to women. What's ironic, somebody said this on one of the telecasts yesterday. I'm watching some CNN analysis. And that was kind of getting like watching the draft, wasn't it? Where there's nothing happening between picks, so they're just babbling away about, well, you know what, they really need a lineman. They lost that guy. All these attorneys are speculating under the prefaced, approach that, geez, you can never tell what a fucking jury is going to do. And no matter what they say, whatever questions they ask, it's pretty hard to zero in on what their intent is and what their thinking is at the time. I would have to say, when the verdict came back quickly, I thought at first, well, geez, they just dismissed this stuff as all being bullshit, because it was hard to tie this into. They had to connect. Not only we knew that Trump had signed the checks and the documents were there. That was clear-cut evidence that, look, I mean, did he falsify business records? Did he do it personally? I don't know. It's hard to know because his COO is in prison himself.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is it was a lot of circumstantial stuff. And here's my problem. Like, circumstantial can be enough. And we've gotten into this world because of fucking CSI and Law and Order that people think you're going to always get a murder weapon. You're going to always get a body. It's actually the opposite. You never get that shit. Like this is what a case is based on. It's like the OJ case was the rare case where you get all that shit and the fucking guy still got off, actually. Like,
worst blown layup in the history of legal litigation and any kind of prosecution.
Like Casey Anthony, like the fact that her fucking computer said, how the fuck do you bury a body? The fact that she had the rope, the fact that she had all this shit, the fact that her kid passed.
The cans of ether in the trunk.
And she was partying. Like usually that actually puts someone away for years. But because of CSI and Criminal Minds and every fucking TV show, everyone thinks, oh, well, they don't have a murder. They don't have a video. We've actually had tapes of Trump saying things, and people are like, "Well, that's a fake." It's like, no, it's not. He said his name. Like,
how about that stuff with Zelensky, huh? Or he's on the phone. They couldn't even impeach him on that. He's on the phone telling the guy, "Hey, look, you know what? If you find this shit on Hunter Biden, I can send you those weapons."
You're not going to have video of the guy waving, saying, I'm doing this illegal act. Like that's not that's in the movies with mafia.
Although we do have video of Trump waving to the crowd and saying, "Let's go storm the Capitol building, kill some cops."
Exactly. So look, I get you're not where you're coming from. It's what a lot of the Republicans are doing, where it's circumstantial. They have
believe me, I believe 1,000% that he did it. I mean, look, we all know that he did it. It's just 8 years later. They're bringing this case after a bunch of people, the feds and the previous prosecutor in New York City, Cyrus Vance, passed on the idea, thinking we'll never be able to connect these dots. I could see where people would look at that and think that it was somewhat vague, which is why I thought that there would be at least one person on the jury, especially one person, when they did the breakdown of what the people's source of news was. And they had the one person that got their news from Fox and Newsmax, and you thought, well, that person's never going to throw in a guilty verdict there. So you're looking at hung jury 1,000%.
Yes.
So I was a little surprised by this yesterday, but I don't know. I mean, this is so strange the way the country's going. That I mean, the guy's donation site crashes because people can't wait to send in money to help. This is a question that really is the most disturbing. How do people, I understand, look, you might think Biden is the biggest asshole and that all the Democrats are barking up the wrong tree.
That's fine.
And are completely misguided in their opinion. That's fine with me and your Republican values or whatever. But when you're looking at the people that represent these values and these positions, I mean, could they be bigger scumbags? How would you want Donald Trump to be running the country again? It's mind-boggling that people actually think, oh, well, this man is the only guy that can save us. He's desperately trying to save himself at this stage.
Yes.
Well, this whole contention too that it was Biden that Biden's own son is going on trial next week in a federal trial. So how was Biden behind this thing that was going on in New York, where it was unlikely they were ever going to bring this case to begin with?
This had nothing to do with the Democrats. This had nothing to do with Biden. This had nothing to do with some backroom Democratic fucking ha. Like, it was yours. There was literally a Truth Social. Like, I agree with you in that regard. Like, again, the right wing fringe could have actual video of Trump committing a crime, and that would them not to vote for him. So
they have him on tape committing crimes, or at least saying threatening people that the case in Georgia. I mean, he's on tape.
Yes, what they
talking to a guy and saying, listen, I don't care how you do it, just fudge the numbers and get me those 11,000 votes I need.
That's ruined people's career, and that puts people away. What they have on him is more than enough, especially and that's the other thing. There's still 3 other cases pending. Will come in sometime,
which seem to be much stronger and significant cases.
Yes. So, anyways, but I agree with you. We talked about this yesterday on the lunchbox. Like, the fact that one of the jurors goes to Truth Social for their fucking news, which that's not even a real thing, and all that comes out of there is literally Trump propaganda. Like, okay, so they're gonna have a hung jury. There's no way they're going guilty on this. The fact that all 34 counts were fucking guilty and it was really quick, look, was impressive. I know nothing's going to happen with the guy. He still is allowed. It's so funny. He can't vote. You can't hold
but he could still be president. Yes.
Being a felon. But he can then lead the people that are voting and have jobs in the White House.
And many people are speculating that only helped the cause there, which I find that a little bit difficult to buy. But nonetheless, we're still going to be faced with this come November, where this guy does he ever win in court? I could see where he would think the court system was against him. He had all of those cases that he brought where he was suing various states about their election results. What was that, like 30 different cases that were all thrown out of court without even getting to the point of scheduling a hearing? Just tossed him right out on lack of merit. Then, of course, he loses this civil suit. And then subsequently to that is asked to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in defamation of character penalties because of the fact that he couldn't shut his mouth. And then he goes into this court case, and did he put on a brilliant case? I saw an interview with the attorney, Todd Blanche, last night on CNN, and I actually kind of like the guy a little bit. I couldn't help but think, though, how inept was this defense?
Supposedly there was no defense. Supposedly there was literally zero defense.
Well, I mean, it's one thing to call Michael Cohen a schmuck, but does that mean that he was lying about this? They kept bringing up the example of Sammy the Bull Gravano. And, the fact that usually if you're getting somebody to testify on some kind of a deal, it's not necessarily going to be Frankie Pentangeli, right? I mean, you're, going to get the guy to say what it is that is probably the truth, and it's believable because in spite of the fact that he murdered like 300 people, at this point, you're looking at it and logically, okay, now I believe the guy, and that's kind of what happened there. And they had corroboration; they kept talking about that in all of the analysis. I thought at one point, though, I mean, the jury's out deliberating, Lubie. I'm watching a little CNN. Yeah. They're like in their ninth hour of deliberations. Plus, you had to tack on the 2 hours when they asked the court to read them back some of the testimony and then go through the jury instructions again. I think they even had like Big Pappy on the Big Pappy was on the panel, wasn't he? I mean, they were asking everybody for an opinion on this, and very few people actually came up with anything of significance, except I do believe that many people were stunned that the guilty verdict actually was applied, and a lot of people were happy about that. And then yet many people are just enraged and thinking that this only fuels. Who are these people that are thinking it would be a good idea to put this guy back in the White House? I mean, find somebody else that represents what is Trump's position on anything? Do we know? Except that he wants to lock up every illegal immigrant,
yes,
and ship them back. Which some people find merit in all of that, and that basically he doesn't give a flying fuck about anyone but himself. Well, we know that his own who is that? Is it Mary Trump?
Yeah, it's like a niece. I think it's his niece.
Boy, I mean, could she did he like leave her out of a will or something? Screw her out of his father's inheritance money? Because she certainly doesn't have anything favorable to say. But when you look at the number of people that have just completely done a 180 that were at one time in his circle of sycophants, you would have to say that there's probably something to the idea that this guy isn't exactly motivated by his desire to save the country. More like save his own ass at this point. Imagine that's your only shot, Lubie, is to become president. That's your only shot to stay out of jail. It's kind of crazy, but that's what happened yesterday. I don't know. What do you think, Lubie? You're like me. I mean, on the liberal side of things, so you were thinking, geez, it's about time. But I don't know that I was anticipating a quick guilty verdict in the Trump hush money case. Not sure that was anticipated, and I would have bet my lungs on a hung jury. Only to see this thing go the other way. So what is July 11th now going to be the new Independence Day for the United States of America? Because I don't, ultimately care. Trump's going to go on and live a good life no matter what. Didn't seem to even he looked a little defeated yesterday, didn't he? I don't think it's a good thing. A lot of people are saying that it is. But I would imagine that this will reflect negatively on the people that are making a last-second choice and thinking, do I really want to put this criminal in the White House? So, although
people are, look. Here's the deal: this thing that people are saying. I mean, Joe isn't any of those things. The Joe Biden stuff.
I don't even care if you like Joe Biden, and that's he would be the lesser of a couple of evils, even if you believed all of this shit about him.
Look, I've said this before. To have
and Hunter Biden is not running for president. Okay,
to have the gall to run for president, even if you are the 8th candidate, you have to have some egomaniacal quality to you, right? You're telling people, I can lead you. I can run the country better than anyone else. The ego and the hubris to that, you had to done something to get there, right? To me, if you get to the highest of politics, you've done something. I don't think any of them are clean. I think even Jimmy Carter, who's the sweetest guy, and by all accounts, every account, a really good dude. I'm sure he did something somewhere to get to that fucking place. The place where people think you should lead them in the most powerful position in all the world. You're not a fucking sweetheart. You're not. I'm sorry. So I think it's naive to like, well, Joe's a criminal too. He's not. When the comparison is Donald Trump, there's no two. He's literally one of the greatest criminals we've ever seen. He's committed crime in every sector, in every facet of life. He's done it his whole life. And what makes it more fun, it's unlike the mafia and unlike crime rings who are quiet as fuck about it. He's horrible at it. He's loud. He's not subtle. He's in your face about the fucking crimes. He gets caught every time. Like, to the comp of, well, Joe Biden's it. That's a false narrative. That's a load of fucking garbage. It's lazy and it's flat out stupid. Joe Biden has been in the public eye for 70 fucking years. Or he was the youngest senator to now be the oldest president. So he's been in the public eye for like 60 years, never got caught for anything. If you're that big of a criminal, you have a trial, you have a thing. So stop it. It's lazy, it's lame, it's stupid, and it's a false narrative that...
Well, and it doesn't justify Trump's behavior, that's all.
No, but I'm just...
This last thing that he did, Lubie, that was so disgusting, it kind of went a little bit unnoticed, where he had the rally in the Bronx there while he was on trial, and he was bragging about how 100,000 people showed up, and there was a more significant crowd there than I would have been, finding favorable in terms of getting rid of this guy once and for all. And I just want him to go away. I don't care. The guy's never going to do any time behind bars, I don't think, and I don't really care if he does. If he did house arrest at Mar-a-Lago, I mean, is that such a sorry fate to have to endure? I'm not sure that you can really punish this guy. He's 78 years old. Is he 78 or 77 now? Because he keeps talking about what an old bag Biden is. He's right there, drafted in behind him. But at this rally, he introduces two guys that were rappers because he's trying to endear himself to the black voter. And these two guys, I mean, look, I had no great familiarity with them before, but I'm so sorry to see. Imagine smiling and glorifying these two guys that are up on murder charges, being suspected of being firmly entrenched in some kind of New York gang. And then their videos are of them in cars, like pointing guns at people. And this is who Trump is embracing. And not exactly fitting for somebody that's going to sit in the White House for a second time after the jerk-off performance he had the first time. I don't care if you ended up paying. I actually benefited from one of Trump's tax initiatives where he was giving back like $2,500 on some kind of allowance. And I'm not sure what the conditions were, but my accountant, who was actually like a fan of Trump's at the time anyway, said, hey, this guy's done a lot of good for people financially, which maybe, I don't know, was that true, Lubie? Because I did get a benefit from that. And
it wasn't Trump. None of this was Trump. Literally the only thing Trump did, was give tax breaks to the top 1%. That's what's funny about the Trump stuff.
Well, I wasn't in that category. That's
what's funny is, like, at least the Republicans of the past, that's why the Bushes and the Reagans of the world, you got the conservatives.
Because the rich people loved them, yeah.
Paid $400 or $500. No, because it wasn't just the rich people. They helped the high middle class up. So, and that's been the Republican strategy since the 80s. It's never worked for America. America always goes into a recession, literally always goes into a recession because of it, because trickle down is not a thing. The rich don't give it to the poor. The rich keep it and want more.
They sock it away. But
it wasn't the rich, at least. At least it was the upper middle class up, right? Trump's actually worse than that. Trump actually only gives tax breaks to the uber, not the wealthy, the uber wealthy. Trump actually, like, that's what I try to tell my friends that are like making good money, but they're not rich. I'm like, dude, you're watching TV too much. Go to your accountant. Ask your accountant how much Trump actually helped you. Trump actually fucked people because Trump's the one that made it harder on tax laws for those who were writing things off, and people who had jobs, not us. People who had jobs were still able to write shit off. Trump got rid of all of that. Trump actually, for no reason, there was no reason to do it. It just made more work for the IRS, who he fired everyone from the IRS. Like,
yeah.
Trump.
Well, and the irony of a guy who's screaming about election fraud, before the election even took place last time. being convicted of 34 counts of trying to rig an election himself. Pretty incredible ironies. But that's where we're at in America right now. I'm not saying the choice is wonderful. You got an 80-year-old, seemingly senile Joe Biden. Has he made mistakes? You have people that are patrolling the border and trying to, have some semblance of order there, and they're going out of their minds, saying that there's no way to deal with this stuff. But then, you have to look at the other side of that too. It's these Republicans with bipartisan bills that are in front of them that could make some changes in terms of enforcing things that need to be in place at the border to protect it. And they constantly, snub their nose and thumb their nose at any kind of reasonable action that could be taken where the two sides can agree. So it's a mess, Lubie. It's a fucking mess. But certainly was an interesting day yesterday. That was one of those times, will you always remember where you were? Now, it was easy for me because I was just like laying in bed like a lump, nursing the torn Achilles. But, will you remember where you were? You had the OJ thing. I remember when the car chase, I remember exactly where it was. When that broke out, when it was first popped on the TV. And I remember where I was when I can still picture myself standing there in shock, listening to a PA announcement while I was at Grand Avenue Junior High School. And the news of the Kennedy assassination came out. Can you... You'll always remember, I think, where you were when a former president of the United States was convicted of 34 felonies in a New York courtroom. So that's only the beginning, we're hoping, and maybe we can just make this guy go away. How anybody could see this as, it would be how could you possibly make a judgment and say, wow, the guy that really can guide us through all of this is the same guy that was encouraging people to go kill cops at the insurrection there. Unbelievable, because he refused to believe that he lost an election. He was too stunned that he lost to an old geezer like Joe Biden. I understand being shocked by that, but still the actions were despicable. All right, Lubie, the sporting world. Last night you were in fear of the Panthers going down to the Rangers, and it appeared like the Rangers were on their game early. This has been the pattern of the series, has it not? Rangers early, Shesterkin with a bunch of brilliant saves, and then finally the Panthers find a way to crack through, but is it not their relentless, how about this, relentless forechecking pressure that they're putting on the Rangers that is ultimately the difference so far in the series? They're constantly pinning the Rangers deep in their defensive end. And even though they haven't had a lot of goals, that they still, they're the ones that are really applying the screws when it comes to the pressure in these games so far.
Goddamn fucking, look, the even when the shots, and I don't know where they get, shot stats, because like anyone who's watching that game from the beginning, even like all the Rangers were doing were matching the Panthers presence. They never were owning it. Like they were up like 5 shots for a while. And I'm like, what game is ESPN stats watching? Like the Panthers literally were dominating the fucking game.
Yeah.
But Shesterkin's like a fuck. I'm like, I know Shesterkin's good, but when did he become like? I didn't know he was Hasek or Brodeur or Wall.
No, he's been talked about for the last couple of years.
Hockey like that. Like I know those guys really well, and those guys like Hasek's teams were but he would get to the cup because he was so fucking good. But again, he would eventually lose because you can only do so much. I didn't realize Shesterkin. I knew King Henrik was there. I didn't know Shesterkin was that good, and I'm like, this fucking guy's insane. Like they were barraging the living shit out of him.
Oh, and yeah. They practically hit him in the face with a puck.
They were great opportunities. They were they were the thing that usually works in hockey. A pass for a goal, a pass for a goal, a pass, shot, like getting action around the net. And you couldn't get in the fucking net. I'm like, okay, like, what are you going to do? Like, I can't, I'm not mad at Bobrovsky for being a human. This guy's a literal brick fucking wall. Like, it's just, they should have scored like 7 goals in that and not even gotten every opportunity and gotten 7 goals. Like they should have annihilated them in that game.
I think I saw too, though, where the Panthers have hit 7 posts so far in the series. So, I mean, they've beaten a guy a number of times. They just, you figure if half of those go in by luck of the draw, then, you're in much different shape. But it's been a great series, though, all the way through. Very competitive.
Great series. The Rangers are a great team. Shesterkin, I guess, is the best goalie in the world. I can't even be mad because I bitch about Bobrovsky because he's not Shesterkin, but it doesn't mean he's not playing well. He's playing really well. He's playing the best hockey maybe of his career since his Columbus days.
Sure.
They're just, again, but that's the thing. If you're dominant so long, eventually the fucking walls break down And that's what you saw in the third period. Eventually, they kept pouring it on to the point where even Shesterkin allowed a goal, and then they got that empty netter thing.
They got a piece of that one, the decider, what I thought was a deciding goal. But yeah, good stuff. So the Panthers in a commanding position, at least statistically, 80% of the time. That team that after a 2-2 tie wins Game 5 goes on to win the series. And could we be looking at, Lubie, a Stanley Cup? Wow, that'd be awesome. Finally win
It'd be
the
wonderful. I
championship
mean, look, by many people's estimations, this is the quote unquote Stanley Cup final, right? Like what's going on out west, both of those are legit teams, Edmonton and the Stars. But if you're watching the war that's going on in the Eastern Continent, I mean, the goaltending that's going on, the action that's happening, look, that first line that's not scoring, it's not like they're not involved. The Panthers are just finally a physical team. And so they get after it. They're not letting them get a lot of opportunities. Those two teams are the best two teams in hockey. And whoever loses, I feel bad for, because this should be the Stanley Cup final, it feels like. And again, it doesn't mean the Panthers won't lose, because that's what we saw last year. The Vegas Knights were a good team. They weren't any of the teams the Panthers had faced. But by the end, the Panthers were so battered and bruised that the Knights just walked away for a Stanley Cup victory. So this doesn't mean whoever wins this will win, but they should. I mean, what we're seeing with Eastern Conference Finals is utterly ridiculous.
Yes, and yet, the slight vulnerability of Bobrovsky, I guess, would be the one thing that would raise some doubt. And it's tough to gauge because we haven't seen the Western Conference Series has been contested in an entirely different fashion than the East, which has been just airtight all the way through. All right, the professor's going to join us on a Degenerate Friday. I'll have a big board and maybe some predictions on things that are happening in the world of sport. And in fact, there he is, the handsome one himself, the professor. How are you, Professor? Everything all right?
I'm good. I'm sitting here listening to you and Lubie go on and on about how great this series is. And, I'm trying, like the rest of South Florida, to get into Canadian soccer. And I got to say, like everything else Canadian, I'm just not into it. And this is the thing, what good thing has Canada ever produced? When it comes to music, you have Bryan Adams and Celine Dion, quite possibly the most horrific duo in the history of humanity. Television, you got that stupid Saved by the Bell knockoff where Drake was in a wheelchair. I can't even remember what the hell the show was called. If they make movies, it's probably with a pinhole camera. I don't think I've ever actually seen a Canadian movie, thank goodness. And this is the big one. Cuisine, poutine. Like every country in the world has fucking French fries, and you're the only country who made them awful. Like every other country in the world has French fries, and you managed to screw that up somehow. Yeah. So, why would I adopt your national sport? I just can't deal with, again, I don't remember what comedian I wanted to credit him, but once said, if you listen to hockey, even the announcers are surprised when they score. So, maybe it's different in the regular season. I need to get more in the regular season, but a sport where like 75% of the offense is just some doofus standing in front of the net waiting to tip somebody else's shot with his stick. And it's not even with like the blade, just any part of the stick.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can hit it and see if I can make the puck go in a different direction. And it might go, 6 feet into the stands, but if it goes in a different direction, that's a good thing. And that's like 75% of the goals. I don't get it. I don't get this sport.
By the way, note here, the Rangers have signed Sean Avery out of retirement to stand in front of Bobrovsky and hit him consistently with the stick, even when the action's at the other end of the ice.
I think they need to sign ex-WWE star Shawn Michaels and have him super kick the puck every time somebody it shoots a shot. Like, if you're digging this, cool, and I'm digging the Panthers run, I think all of South Florida is very into it.
Yeah.
But I don't really think I understand this sport much at all.
Nobody does. Well, we're experts now. Lubie and I watch hockey incessantly during the regular season.
I don't watch it at all.
All of a sudden, we're finding negative tendencies of Bobrovsky, and we're telling you about forechecking.
Am I wrong about this? I keep hearing how great Bobo is, but I'm watching this series, and he does not look particularly good. The other guy is ridiculous.
He's insane, yeah.
He's good. He's not great. Chesterkin's fucking great. Chesterkin's just, on another goddamn level.
I appreciate that Lubie actually has managed to learn how to pronounce this guy's name.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like it should be Shesterkin.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It looks like Chesterkin, as in Chesterfield or whatever.
Wrong.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll have a big board with the professor, and I don't know what kind of action that you're dabbling in, but we'll find out whatever that is in just a moment here on the show at Degenerate Friday. The professor and the big board coming up in just a moment. Now that
The time.
it's 8:34.
Here, let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
If Brian Flores had just kept his mouth shut, collected his $100,000 per loss checks,
Very
and
true.
done his job. That was what you were hired for, asshole. You weren't down here to compete. You weren't down here to try to win games. You were hired to lose games so we could get the number 1 pick in the draft, you piece of trash. And then you've got the nerve to sue your boss because you refuse to lose your boss's instruction. And you know what? I hope you stay with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I hope Joe Burrow kicks your ass twice a year for the rest of your life, because that's what you deserve for not doing your job, you piece of garbage.
Well stated, Professor. All right, I can't even imagine where we're going with number 1.
Honestly, can you imagine if you're the Arizona Cardinals right now and you are getting ready to possibly hire this man as your head coach? If I'm Kyler Murray's agent, I'm calling the Cardinals front office and say, that's fine. Trade my client right fucking now. Do not put this bum anywhere near my player who you just signed for $200 million. Do not put this piece of garbage. If I see Ryan Fitzpatrick in Las Vegas because it's 100 miles from Phoenix, I want everybody in the front office fired or my client out of this franchise.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. We're going to be with you here at Degenerate Friday. We got the professor getting set to unveil a big board for this week. And are you betting this UFL stuff? I haven't heard you talk too much about it. Are you involved at all?
Nuts. I tried to get into it, but the first weekend I think it was like 2 10.5-point games. The lines have actually gotten pretty screwy. I think the bookmakers caught up to that one after like 3 seasons or 2 seasons or whatever it's been, which is unfortunate. So it's been hard to get deep dive into that.
How many teams are in the league? Do they have 8 teams? Is that what it is?
Correct.
Okay, because they're all in action. This is already week number 10. I can't believe that, of the UFL.
Yeah, I didn't agree with they started right around the time of the NCAA tournament, which I thought was kind of dumb. I would be looking to run it. Yeah, right about now, right as the NBA playoffs.
Because there's nothing going on. There's no NBA game till next Thursday. I actually may watch it.
I love how we all just now at this point say Major League Baseball is nothing. And I agree with that.
You know what? When you flip back and forth, which I've been doing naturally, as a lot of people have, and then you're thinking, oh, geez, are the Marlins playing? Let me see what's going on there. Trying to root home another loss for the under to be accomplished by the All-Star break. And then the pace of the game. I mean, regardless of whether you like hockey or not, the pace is just blistering. NBA pace a little bit slower, but still, when you turn on a baseball game, you're like, well, he steps out of the box again. I know they've done the thing with the pitch clock and all of that, but I mean, God, it's fucking slow.
I don't want to be the. I guess since the movie has come out, I've become the old guy who hates anything new.
Yeah.
But for me, it really is the Moneyball revolution. This thing where you don't want anybody who ever hits singles, and if they get on base, you never steal bases and you never take an extra base. You run. So everything is like you know a game with like 27 combined strikeouts and 5 home runs, 4 of which are solos, and whoever gets the 2 home run hit wins the game. It's just awful to watch. It's
Dreadful.
yeah, it may be the more efficient way to win baseball games. I'm not arguing that. I'm not gonna, the sabermetrics discussion is well over at this point. Obviously, it's a good way to manage a baseball team, but it is not entertaining in any way whatsoever. And the Marlins are terrible at it, so it's not helping on the local market either.
They've been brilliant for us so far this year, except for this recent streak where they've won like 8 out of 11 or something. And, it's a little disturbing when you're trying to root home what looked like a certain under. All right. So any wagering action whatsoever, Professor? Anything to recommend?
Obviously, we have the playoffs.
Yep.
I'm personally betting what type of injury will Luka Doncic miss the series with against the Celtics, since that just seems to be the very unfortunate way this particular season is going. I am going with diagnosed with a Dallas area prostitute sexually transmitted disease.
Start sending hookers to his room.
Game time decision, syphilis. No, I really I don't know whether it's going to be Doncic or Kyrie. It's certainly going to be one of them. Kyrie seems the more obvious choice, but Kyrie's like one of those guys who it appears can do anything. As Dennis Leary once said about Motley Crue, you could lock them in a room with a room full of cocaine. They'd come out 6 hours later with a new double album. That's sort of what Kyrie Irving is to basketball. It doesn't matter what horrible things he says or does over the years. He always seems to reemerge to be a pest.
Seems to have had some kind of an epiphany that has led to at least a slight metamorphosis from the.
Why do people
nutbag that he
keep
was.
saying this? The guy posed in a burqa like a week ago.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
I haven't seen anything from Kyrie or heard anything this
Yeah,
week.
no. All he has literally dropped is the Hitler stuff, and only in the sense that he's no longer actively quoting Hitler on Twitter.
Well, it's step in
And
the
I'm
right
not
direction.
doing a Hitler joke there. He literally quoted Hitler on Twitter.
Yeah.
It was from some book that was full of false quotes from Hitler, so he attributed a quote that Hitler never said to Hitler, which I'm not sure is worse, actually quoting Hitler or incorrectly quoting Hitler.
Hitler screaming from
But
the grave.
he did a picture of himself in a burqa.
Oh, yeah, we didn't see that. So
I don't know what they call it when you wear a burqa, but you're a guy. But the Hamas war mask thing.
Oh, geez, all right.
Get a picture of himself doing that. No, Kyrie Irving is never going to stop being the stupidest guy in the room who's trying to prove his Duke education over and over. Dude, you went to class for like one semester. Nobody.
Yeah, he was a freshman.
You're not fooling anybody with the smart guy thing. You were not remotely.
Coach K wasn't concerned about his academics when he was there.
I mean, he might have been, but he was only there for one semester.
Yeah,
I mean, he was literally one of those the first guys in that group who the second semester they realized, oh well, we're going to the draft anyway, so I'm not even going to go to class my second semester while I'm on campus. I mean.
Why bother? Yeah, I took the same approach, although I wasn't going to play in the NBA. All right, Professor, we will then get to the big board.
We do have a couple of things.
Oh, picks, yeah.
Number one, obviously, it's that time of year. So we will return to the lovely coast of Australia, down Melbourne way.
Oh, nice.
And we will be taking the Essendon Bombers, one of our favorite teams over the years. We know our favorite team, of course, to root for is the Magpies in Collingwood. But Essendon and St. Kilda have been offensive machines the whole time we've been watching the AFL. So we will take Essendon plus 5.5 over the Gold Coast Suns this week. Sunday, I believe it's 2:20 a.m. tip-off.
Perfect.
So, Andy, when you're watching ping pong, you can throw in a little Aussie Rules football action and take Essendon +5 and a hook over Gold Coast. And then secondly, I've been scouting out the Euro, which starts, I believe, on the 14th, and we'll look at it a little bit more closely. But just my red flag: you should always bet soccer matches in terms of countries, in terms of how you would bet war. In other words, when England and France are the favorites, you want to stay the hell away from the chalk. If the country is not good at war, don't bet them in soccer.
Interesting theory or a variation on a theme. I like that.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm just saying we're not going to do our official picks for the Euro, but I will tell you, stay away from the chalk. England, like honestly, how insane do you have to be to put a future on England to win anything?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you on that. British boxers routinely, come up lame, even as highly touted as they are. Anthony Joshua being a prime example, losing to that little fat Mexican guy. That was a disgrace.
Well, no, their whole national identity as a sporting nation is to choke at the end, and people are now making them the favorite for the Euro this time around. That's the most batshit thing. Like, honestly, Ronaldo's like 62 years old, and I would still bet Portugal over England just based on his presence at this point. I mean, come on.
All right, a lot of material out there, Professor. I'm curious to see what direction this goes in.
There is a lot of material
and the big board
going on this week. Unfortunately, we missed last week's show, so we have to do a makeup because this was a subject we desperately wanted to do. So this week's big board is the big board of athletes less likely to get arrested than Scotty Scheffler. And I'll admit, I was among the people who was stunned that the dentist somehow got arrested. Like, I mean, he is so boring and white bread that if he was going to get arrested, it was going to be for some white guy thing like oxycodone. He's going to get, like, he had Rush Limbaugh's doctors or something. That would make sense for how Scotty Scheffler got arrested. You know, importing illegal Viagra from Mexico or something along those lines. But Scotty Scheffler tried to run over a cop was not a headline I would ever expect in the history of the world. So it was one of the more shocking arrests we've ever seen. And that has brought about a frequent topic on sports radio and sports shows. Who is actually more unlikely as an athlete to get arrested than Scotty Scheffler? And there has been a number one name, but we will tell you it is not on our list. And we're going to start with that as a bonus slide, which is, surprisingly, it is not Tim Tebow. I just want to remind people that for all Tim Tebow's wonderful personality and wanting to say the word, Tim Tebow, when he was only like 3 months out of college, somehow got involved with a church that was rampantly anti-gay, had a history of an abortion clinic bombing, and was white supremacist. So can we really be shocked if somewhere down the line Tim Tebow ends up accidentally, not intentionally, getting involved with some church who is just rampantly stealing money? If 20 years from now it turns out Joel Osteen has sold $9 billion and Tim Tebow was somehow involved in it, would we really be surprised by that? Like, if you're going to get involved in this business, you have to expect there's at least some chance you're getting arrested at some point.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one, man. And we juxtaposed a couple of letters there, but that was your bonus pick.
That was my bonus pick. And yes, no, apparently it was our bones pick. Spelling, not my. And we'd also, in light of recent news, would also like to add that also not Donald Trump.
Nice.
He was very likely to get arrested, this guy.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point.
He did play some second base, I think, for his elementary school team.
I believe it was first base in high school.
Yeah.
And the story
That's the claim, anyway.
Yes,
there's no verification.
Very, very much wanted to draft him, and he told the Yankees, no, I'm going to Pennsylvania to pursue my education as a real estate mogul. But they very much wanted to. But he did not make the list. We just want to point that out. And now we're going to start with the real list, which is at number 5, least likely athletes to get arrested. And it goes with, of course, a favorite here on our big board. Ain't nobody arresting Captain America, annoying America, J.J. Watt. If you were a cop, where the hell would you even go to find him? Would you have to walk up to that cabin in the woods where J.J. Watt has to run 20 miles just to get to his own cabin because there's no roads and no paths, just J.J. Watt and his, I don't know, team of dogs because snowmobiles can't even get to the secret Rocky IV training cabin where I admit, I'm the only man in America who despises this guy. So, ain't nobody else in America ever going to arrest J.J. Watt while he flips tires, even though he's been retired for a few years, and instructs TJ on how to be the greatest pass rusher in the history of pass rushers. And I don't know, fights wolves or whatever the hell it is he supposedly does to embody hustle, hard work, and work ethic there at the cabin in the woods. I honestly, what is J.J. Watt even doing these days? We don't even see him on TV as much as I
think he's back. He's back on one of the pregame shows. CBS, I think.
Well, that explains it because nobody watches the CBS.
Well, they got rid of the two old geezers there,
Boomer and Phil.
And they replaced him with J.J. Watt. I
think Watt was there already. I think he had already assumed a spot there. I'm not sure. Gronk's on everything. He's on all networks.
That's a decision that's guaranteed to get good ratings. That's right up there with NBC now buying the NBA and NBC, the NBA. And instead of, just hiring the TNT crew, who's the most universally loved group on television, they're like, well, no, instead we're going to buy the rights to the John Tesh music because that's what people want.
I missed that.
It's the John Tesh song.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, did anybody catch that? What was Gronk on CNN yesterday, analyzing before the verdict came down what might happen? They pretty much relied on virtually everybody. All right, and J.J. Watt, tough to serve with a warrant if you can't find him. You're right about that. Number 5.
Number 4. Again, don't think this should be controversial pick at all. In fact, we know this man has committed a litany of crimes and never gets arrested for it, and that's because everybody in America loves Charles Barkley. I mean, look, Charles Barkley spit on a 12-year-old girl at courtside, and everybody was like, yeah, but... And then when asked about it, said, no, I was trying to spit on her dad. And everybody was like, oh.
That makes it okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That dude threw a guy out of a window in Disney World.
Yes.
And wasn't arrested for it. At this point, Charles Barkley could be a serial killer and nobody's going to touch him for it. I understand why other athletes get frustrated with the things Charles Barkley can do and say. Has admitted a long history of being a problem gambler, and his response was, oh, I just bet less now. Charles Barkley at this point in his life seems to be totally bulletproof, and I'm cool with it because I'm like everybody else in America. I love Chuck. I don't want to see Chuck get arrested. But if it turned out that Charles Barkley's got like 14 bodies hidden in the basement of his house, I think he's getting away with it at this point.
Not many people get to carry that $800,000 marker at a Vegas casino.
As long as the guy down here, the car dealer, like the Vegas casino came in and started driving cars off the lot. Barkley, they're like, oh, do a couple jokes at the craps table, Chuck. Yeah. Do a couple jokes for the big players at the craps table, and we'll call it even.
It's a beautiful thing.
I don't get it, but again. Nobody's arresting Charles Barkley. There's no chance of it.
Yeah, all right. I mean, perfect. And that's only number 4 on the list of athletes less likely to get arrested than Scotty Scheffler.
Number 3 is a two reasons here. But let's go to our slide for number 3. Athlete less likely to get arrested, the Joker. Number 1, because if you're going to tell me an athlete least likely to commit crime, I think the Joker's way up there. I'm now at this point convinced this guy, when he is not actively playing basketball, all he wants to do is ride around on his little horse carriage thing. I think that is his entire life. I play basketball and I ride around my little horse carriage. And number 2, let's be honest. One of those 2 brothers is definitely taking the rap. If the Joker ever gets
for
anything.
For sure.
Like that Joker could go into a 7-Eleven and hold it up with no mask. And the one war criminal there in the middle is absolutely going to go, no, it was me. I did. And that dude, the guy in the middle, the oldest brother there, the one who's almost as tall as Joker himself, he looks like the kind of guy, let's be honest, who is more comfortable in prison than he is in the free world.
Yes, 100%. That guy
He
does not.
definitely looks like the kind of guy whose favorite meal is ramen cooked on a hot plate with flaming hot Doritos sauce. You ask him what his favorite restaurant is, and he's like the commissary.
He looks like one of the Romanian gangsters that Ray Donovan was
Exactly. He looks like the kind of guy who goes to a bar and orders toilet wine shots instead of regular. He is so above the law at this point because of his two brothers. And again, I don't think the guy does anything criminal in the first place anyway. I think, again, Joker's whole life, basketball, not really. They make me play for money, and riding around in my cart on my little horses. I obviously miss his career as the world's biggest jughead driver. And honestly, as good as he is at basketball, I wouldn't be shocked if he mysteriously would have been actually very good at it. Which is more unlikely, to be the most unathletic big man in the history of the NBA, to have Greg Ostertag level athleticism and still be one of the 2 or 3 greatest centers in the history of the game, or to be 7 foot, 300 pounds and one of the greatest harness racing drivers in the history of harness racing.
There is a little bit of a success record with fat harness racing drivers. There have been a few. I don't think Carmine Abatello is svelte, although he did carry that anchor in his back pocket that he was able to drop occasionally when his 3 to 5 shot would hit the top of the stretch. I'm with you. I mean, he's probably less likely to get arrested than he is to win the equestrian events at the Olympics. So
again. And if he does get arrested, one of those brothers is taking the rap.
Yeah. Or taking out the cops, or holding
the time. The brother in the middle there is like, yeah, give me 50 years. I don't care.
It's funny when they shoot to a shot of these guys in the stands. You were absolutely right about that. You were onto that very early on. The Jokic family, nobody to mess with. All right, that's number 3, Nikola Jokic.
Number 2, again, talk about people above the law, people who can just do whatever they want at this point. Athletes who will never be arrested. Number 2, The Rock. Anything this guy does, society just instantly accepts it. People forget this is a man who once gave a speech for George Bush at the Republican National Convention and was beloved, was talked about being a future Republican president at the time, then turned around in 2020 and endorsed Joe Biden, and every Democrat was like, oh, yeah, we love The Rock. And now there's a surprise announcement. He just announced it the other day. He's now doing a series of speeches for local right-wing broadcaster Patrick Bet-David, and the Republicans love him again. And it's the same thing in wrestling. He was a bad guy, then he was a good guy. Now he's a bad guy again, who actually beat Cody Rhodes bloody with his belt on TV, and people like him better as a bad guy. Doesn't matter what. And let's be honest here. Biggest movie star in the world in terms of per picture average salary. Have you watched any of his movies? They're all terrible. Somehow he became the biggest, most highly paid movie star in the world without ever doing a good movie. I don't know how that happens. Even, guys I don't like Ryan Gosling. Even Ben Affleck has had one that's better than what The Rock.
Yeah.
Have you seen particularly the kids' movies? The kids' movies
they're awful,
are the worst stuff I've ever seen.
All his movies, they're all bad.
That one where he was a hockey player, oh my God. That was maybe the worst movie I've ever seen. And not just because the whole premise was that he was the NHL's biggest superstar and he was black. Who's going to allow that? Canadian soccer's not letting that happen.
He was really good for a while, and he's a black
guy. He makes Adam Sandler look like Sir Lawrence Olivier. I mean, he really does.
Honestly, yeah, Sandler has classics at least. That's true. Sandler has classics. Everyone in Gosling, the Hollywood, whatever movie was good, like they've all.
Pauly Shore, yeah.
Your Wahlberg at least been at least a part of movies that were good. Like he doesn't have any movie that's good. There's not one. Like not one movie's good.
I thought he was all right in an HBO thing. What was that called? Where he was the sports agent?
Is fine.
Ballers was pretty good.
He's not. That's not where
we disagree on that. I thought that was one of the worst shows I've ever seen.
I
thought that show
by the Rock standard of acting.
I know everybody down here loved it because there are
a lot of Miami stuff
every 30 seconds. Yeah, but I thought that show was awful. I thought that was unwatchable direct.
Still can picture myself, a young Deef, 1984, I believe it had to be, standing outside the Hecht Athletic Center. We had interviewed just about everybody that was on the roster on the football team coming out of their national championship. And I believe it was that year. It might have been later on. But anyway, so we're making a bunch of features, and we're out of guys to interview, and they throw us The Rock, who was he second team on the defensive unit or
Yeah, he's a
third?
backup defensive tackle.
Yeah. I mean, so we're thinking, okay, yeah, we're down to the scrubs here. And we asked him what his aspirations were about possibly going into the NFL. And he really, one of the few times I've been taken aback by somebody answering a sports question in an interview, he said, I'm not really looking at the NFL. I'm looking at going into pro wrestling. And we thought, what? Who the fuck does that?
He's going to make more money doing that than the rest of the guys combined.
Look what happened. He was onto something. Yeah. It was a family thing, though. I guess his father was involved and had some kind of a wrestling school where he was teaching people to be professional wrestlers. And
again,
also,
the key with this guy is if he is on your side at the moment, you don't care about anything he has ever done before. Again, it's totally bulletproof in the context of America. And I guarantee if the video comes out tomorrow with The Rock fighting 4 cops in the middle of a traffic stop, more than half of America is going to be cheering for The Rock.
Yeah.
You thought white people were quick to defend Scotty Scheffler. Wait to see what happens with America if The Rock ends up fighting a bunch of cops.
So there's an implication there that maybe the charges would not have been completely dropped if it was Lee Elder that was trying to make his way into the club there.
You didn't see Tiger Woods get away with it, did you?
Took him straight to jail, this cat.
Tiger thought he was at that level.
Yeah.
But nope.
No.
All right, so who would be number one? I mean, it's going to be hard to eclipse The Rock in this category.
We're about to say, and again, we have to remember the law is the law.
Yeah.
And there's a reason this man is number one, and that is, I don't think AJ Hawk is capable of forming criminal intent. On a legal basis, if you got in court, could you prove that AJ Hawk is capable of forming criminal intent? I don't think so. Because I think you would get exactly this. You would be standing there in court, and he would be just staring at 2 different spots on the wall with his hammerhead wide set eyes.
That's actually a live video of AJ Hawk.
Yes,
you have up there.
Does he ever talk on that show?
He never says a thing.
Exactly. How are you going to arrest somebody for talking back to you when he doesn't talk? You want to prove that you're legally insane. What better evidence than, Your Honor, I'm married and have remained with Brady Quinn's sister since I was 20 years old.
I think Regis Philbin said Maureen was a sidekick. What was that? The Joey Bishop show?
This man is incapable of being arrested because he's been. You can't prove he has the mental faculty to form criminal intent. You can't disprove it either, but you can't prove it because he's just going to sit there with that odd, whatever the hell it is he has, stare.
It's a lobotomy look, isn't it?
But credit to him because the man has managed to make millions and millions of dollars in a broadcasting career doing this.
Yes.
It's classic. Yeah, no, there's no doubt. They're not taking this guy away.
Absolutely bulletproof.
He is making a valuable contribution to sports television.
And honestly, if you're a traffic cop and you pull over AJ Hawk and he just stares forward,
he just
what
stares
are you going
at
to do? Doesn't make a move, doesn't reach for anything. Even his license or registration just sits there like this for about 30 minutes. At some point, I think you're giving up and just getting back in your car and driving on.
Yeah, you're like,
fuck it. Let this guy go.
You're going to wait for an hour on the side of the road for Pat McAfee to call you and just tell you what's going on?
Exactly.
Brilliant as always, Professor. Brilliant as always.
No, that's great.
All right, will you be venturing out to the stream today to take advantage of any of the hospitality there?
Maybe if you guys got an empty seat, I'll.
Well, we always have room for the professor.
Greta, we don't. So
we
Greta,
don't? Okay.
He's invited, but I know why he comes in when he likes to come.
Okay.
So Greta will be there. So we will have 4
No,
people.
I like Tony. What are you talking
Oh,
about?
no, I'm talking about
like I don't want to meet
we're going to
Tony.
have 4 people there.
That's
Male,
what I mean. Yeah, you just
it's
don't have
not a
a chair
dislike or anything. I know.
The camera angle's not wide enough to fit us all in. When
I know what the circumstances are for when you like to come. You're always invited, obviously. Come down if you want, but broadcasting wise, we have our 4 people.
It was great to see you guys down there, though, and maybe for the Belmont in a week, we'll.
All right, yeah, no, that
Yeah,
sounds
come on,
good.
just this week.
To show up. But yeah, always a great time at Gulfstream. Make sure you go on out there and enjoy it.
Maybe a little Foundry hockey watch party on Saturday. That might
Probably
be
not.
what- yeah, no.
No. I'm not trying to encourage America's love of Canadian soccer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's not a good
Stated
sport.
your position on that.
Every goal seems like an accident. It doesn't.
It's like the puck drops out of the guy's ass and then just goes in. It's
What's
incredible.
the game? We used to try to pick stuff up with chopsticks, and they made it like a kid's game.
That was like
That's what
Jack's.
it reminds me of.
Wasn't that the
It's
one
like
where you had that little ball, you bounce it, and you had to pick
swinging
the
a
stuff up?
stick. Again, they're not even trying to hit it with the blade of the stick. If it hits the knob and starts tumbling over
Yeah.
the goalie's shoulder, they don't care. That's big time hockey play there.
They put a guy in front of the net that's holding an oar instead of a hockey stick.
That would honestly, that would be a better strategy. Send a guy out there with a 2x4. The guy who's standing out there. Have hacksaw Jim Duggan stand in front of the net with a 2x4. Oh!
You're allowed to hit the goalie in the head with a spiked steel ball, and the goal is still good because they're so rare. Yeah. All right, Professor, we love you, man. Thanks so much for being with us. It's always a
You guys
pleasure.
have a great one.
The Professor, ladies and gentlemen. Interesting big board today. That was fantastic. Scotty Scheffler, all charges dropped. You had to assume that was going to happen.
Obviously, I mean,
Wow, what a bogus thing that turned out to be. Pretty weird. Yeah, I mean, of all the people in the world, if there was some other scumbag golfer, I don't know that you could even. Is there any John Daly getting arrested for being intoxicated or something?
Oh, yeah.
Possible, although I think has he not gone sober, John Daly? We certainly hope so. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
He's always fun, that guy. I wish that he had some. Does he ever play on the Champions Tour? I think he does.
I have no idea.
Does he do any good there, or he just doesn't give a fuck anymore?
I haven't heard about that tour in years, ever since.
I've seen him in father and son stuff actually do well, right? Because his son
I think
apparently is a good golfer or has some ability. Is his son like 3 years old? No, he's got to be like 20.
No,
right?
his son's older. Yeah.
All right, excellent, Lubie. We'll see you out at the track. It's always a lot of fun. I look forward to that. And that'll be Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 1 o'clock today from the 10 Palms. Stop on by and say hello. And other than that, have a great weekend, everybody. Panthers could be on their way to the Stanley Cup final by the time we meet again. So
let's wrap it up. Come on, Cats.
Lubie's solidly behind the Cats at home in Game 6. So look for a Game 7 at the Garden on Monday night. That'll be something else. Help pass the time as we're waiting now. What, June 6th is when? Is that
Thursday? Next Thursday is the beginning.
Next Thursday would be your next basketball game. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's actually stupid as fuck, especially since they both wrapped it up quick. Makes zero sense.
Yeah, let's do some rescheduling. All right, thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys tuning in. It's always a pleasure. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:07.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.